Okay, thanks for everybody tuning in. I want to discuss something real quick that was brought to my attention. A couple of y'all sent me an email that said, practicing at home solo is not working. So that's what I want to discuss real quick is how do you practice martial arts all by yourself? Now, I don't want to take away from the fact that yes, people are needed. You need to train with other people. To deal with a full stimuli, you need somebody attacking you. But there is so much to the martial arts that you can practice without a partner. I don't want you to think that you can become a great martial artist, a great black belt at home, from your couch, from your carport, from your garage, without ever stepping in the ring or squaring off against somebody else. Because eventually, yes, you need other people. But there are a lot of things that you can focus on yourself. One of the most important aspects of martial arts is that visualization. Being able to fight that imaginary opponent that is standing in front of you. Hence our forms, kata, hyung, whatever, patterns, whatever you want to call them. Forms are all important. When you are practicing your forms, it is vital that you picture yourself sparring against another individual. That's how we get distancing. That's how we get timing. That's how we get control. Because you have to be able to imagine that opponent standing in front of you. That opponent standing in front of you that is throwing attacks. Okay, visualization is so important. A lot of times though, it is just as important as just practicing the techniques. Start building that muscle memory. Muscle memory is what makes us great. Okay, yes, learning to read an opponent is absolutely vital. But as important, if not more, is learning to control yourself. You know, is my balance right? Is my head positioning right? Am I breathing correctly? Is my timing right? Am I popping my hips at the correct time when I need to block my opponent or strike my opponent? You know, and a lot of those things you can focus on your own. Just take the time, slow down the technique, and make sure everything's there. Okay, now, probably the most important aspect of training alone, repetition. Repetition. I won't ever forget, I was at a seminar training with many other students, many other black belts, and we were doing a technique. I forget what it was, but we were doing a technique. And I did it correctly. Once. And they were like, cool, you got that technique down? Let's say move on to the next one. But what I failed to mention is that I did it wrong like 3 times before that. Now, I don't want to move on to the next technique because I finally did it right. I want to move on to the next technique when I quit doing it wrong. A lot of times when we're training with other people, they are happy with the, I finally did it correct. A true martial artist won't be happy until they're not doing it wrong. So, the benefit of training by yourself is the fact that you can do these repetitions over and over and over to your heart's content without ever having a partner saying, okay, man, I'm getting bored. Let's move on to the next technique, please. Take this opportunity at home training alone to focus on yourself to really get those repetitions in. Okay, let's get started. Jumbi, cheer up, kill right. Back to Jumbi. Today we're going to be focusing on stances. As many of y'all know, just had a test online. 1 second, let me adjust the camera. Okay, in about 30 seconds, I'll know if that's correct. And one of the glaring problems that I saw in this, in your training at home, is your stances. Stances are vital to what we do. So we're going to start today with a little bit of leg stretching to help improve our stances. Sorry, I wasn't even ready. First thing I want y'all to do is sit down on the ground, leg out in front of you, hook a towel around the ball of your foot, and you can just pull. Hold it, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, relax. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, relax. With this one, I really want you to focus on the Achilles tendon and the back of your calf. Really pull to where you just start to feel the burn. And relax. Other leg. Now you can do this with a towel. I couldn't find a towel. I got an old t-shirt, but just hook it around the ball of your foot and just pull. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, relax. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, relax. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Good. This next one, you can do seated, you can get in a chair and do it, just rotating that ankle clockwise. Just get all the blood flowing to that ankle. Try not to use your muscles to do it, but actually using your arm and your hands to rotate that ankle. Really stretch those ligaments. Now counterclockwise. Good. Other side. I don't know, what do we do first? Clockwise. Like I said, really focus on that stretch. Good. Counterclockwise. Okay. Butterflies. Just feet together, pushing down with your elbows, your knees. Hold it. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Relax. Again. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Relax. Again. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Good. Next one. So for this one, come up to a knee. You're going to take your other foot, lay it down on the ground in front of you, and walk that back foot out. This stretch, you're 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Up. If you can, try to walk that back foot back a little bit more. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Good. Switch. Lay your foot down. Walk that other foot back out. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Up. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Up. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Good. Okay. The importance of stances. Now, we all focus on stances in our forms, katas, patterns. I will call them forms. We focus on these frozen leg positions, and we hold them. For instance, we did Kichi Yobu the other day. Low block. Stepping into a nice big front stance. Stepping forward into the punch. Focusing on this nice big front stance. Like I said last time, these are frozen moments in time. It's not meant to teach you real-time fighting. Those are points in time in a fight. So for instance, when I low block, that's the stance I should be in. That's the position my feet should be in for optimal power, optimal speed and technique. But I'm only going to stay in there for a fraction of a second. You know, so if I'm here in my fighting stance, and somebody's coming up from the side, I block. And only for that split second am I there as I move on to another technique. Real life is not the movies. Somebody's coming in with a bat or a stick or a haymaker. I'm not going to block, pose for that cinematic effect, and then step in for the punch. And that's what everybody forgets when they practice these forms, is they are just moments in time. Now, if that's the case, then why do we focus on these frozen moments in time? Frankly, strength. Strength. To have a good connection to the ground, to transfer that power from the ground up through our legs, into our hips, and down our arm into our fists for a punch. It just takes a good, solid foundation. And of course, our foundation is our stances, our legs. And I'll go over some of these problems that I see in forms here in a second. The other thing that will help build is fluidity. A lot of times you'll see, especially in forms, I'll ask students stepping sideways into a punch, stepping forward into a low block and then a punch. And then when they go to step backwards, you'll always see them shift their weight backwards, step up, and then around. Now, the problem with that is, warning on the screen. Oh, it's all good. The problem with that is you're having to move before you move, versus being able to stand there in a low block punch and just being able to drive off that front foot all the way around into another low block. By creating these stronger stances, this stronger foundation, you give yourself the ability to move more freely in combat. So stance training is so important. I won't ever forget when I was testing for my 4th degree black belt, the first question they asked: how many days a week do I devote to stance training? How many days a week do you devote to stance training? I was kind of dumbfounded because, frankly, I didn't. I did my forms. I love my forms. I did my stationary exercises. I did my moving exercises. But at no point in time did I ever really try to just focus on just stances. So today we're going to spend the rest of the time just focusing on these stances. Now, I would love to say that there's a magic way to practice your stances. I would love to say you do this exercise, your stance is going to be perfect. But frankly, the only way to improve your stances is just to be in them. One of my favorite examples of stances is, what's that movie, Forbidden Kingdom. Forbidden Kingdom, Jet Li, Jackie Chan, amazing martial arts movie, I love it. Anyway, I could not imagine being on set training with the two of them. It would be a lifelong dream come true. But what I'm getting at is, I forget the kid's name that was in it, I apologize. He has this beautiful scene where he stands in a nice, deep horse stance underneath the waterfall. And behind the scenes of that movie, they were talking about how at the beginning of the film, before he trained before the film, but during the beginning of the film, he could stand in it for a few seconds at a time. But because Jackie Chan and Jet Li were just on top of him, drilling him, he was able to improve his horse stance to where he could hold it for minutes. And I will guarantee that most martial artists cannot. And but once again, that goes to show you the benefits of really focusing on your stances. So the first stance we're going to focus on is the front stance. Actually, I lied. Let's go back and start at the beginning. Jumbi Hase. Front stance. Or ready stance. Okay. This stance is highly overlooked. I ask my students all the time, what stance is this? Ready stance. Cool, what does it mean to you? Sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. But basically that means you're ready. You're ready to do whatever. So this is as important a stance as anything else. In Jumbi Hase, you should be able to move freely into any other attack, any other technique. because you're ready to go. Now, I'm not saying walk around your daily life like this, but walk around your daily life like this. When you're talking to somebody, having a conversation with somebody, stand there relaxed, feet shoulder width apart, slight bend in the knee. Too many times we get stiff-legged and slunge back and we lose all balance to ourselves. So Junbi Hase is the first stance. Next stance, front stance. Front stance is 1.5 shoulder width wide, 1.5 shoulder width back. When you are standing in a good front stance, your front shin should be straight up and down, straight over that heel. Not leaning to one side, not leaning to the other, not leaning back, not leaning forward. Now, the main benefit of this is it is a solid stance. I'm not going to be as mobile in this stance as I would be a cat stance or a back stance or something along those lines. This is a solid stance. I should be able to go toe to toe without losing ground. Weight distribution, 60% on the front leg, 40% on the back. Good way to do this, it works, get a bathroom scale and push on that front leg until you hit 60% of your body weight. I promise you it works. And for most of us that have been in martial arts for years, it's a lot heavier than you think it would be. So what am I doing right now? I'm actually stance training. You stand here long enough, you start feeling it on the outside of your quads, top of your quads. Those of us with knee issues, you feel it in the knees, back leg locked. One thing we used to do back in the day, somebody would jump up on the knee and stand there, somebody would jump up on the back knee and stand there. It's a solid stance. So stand here for a couple minutes, and when you're ready, buckle, switch. Once again, leg straight up and down, knee over that heel, back leg locked, 1.5 wide, 1.5 back. Now, depending on what style you have, in a Tang Soo Do, we have the tendency both feet pointed straight ahead. I'm actually a huge fan of this because it really focuses on that calf flexibility. What do I mean by that? A lot of times you'll see students when they step into their stance, their back heel is up off the ground. That is a huge no-no. Once again, with that back heel on the ground, that's probably putting closer to 80% of the weight on my front leg, which makes me off balance. You want that heel on the ground. So once again, 1.5 wide, 1.5 long. And how do you practice this? Stand there. We kind of did a drill like this, I believe it was Thursday, where I had you stand in this stance and pushing down on that front leg. Once again, over-exhausting the muscle. Great way to train with that. You know, go stand up against a wall here in a front stance and just kind of push. Pretend like you're trying to push that wall away from you. Another great way to train. But front stance, if you think about it, almost all styles start with Kichuyang Ilbu, the first basic form. What stance do we use in there? Front stance. I should tell you that this stance is very, very important. So, next stance we're going to be doing is back stance. Back stance is very simple. You're going to make an L with your feet, one foot pointed straight out in front of you, other one pointed off perpendicular to your side. Bend the knee, slide that front foot forward. Now, once again, I told you I was doing stances today because I just reviewed a lot of my students' tests. And the problem is that their stances were here. Now, I know a lot of y'all won't see the issue with this, but I want you to take a gander at my front knee. That front knee is locked. If we're in a fight right now and I hit my opponent and he doubles over and falls on that knee, I just broke my knee. If he is a decent fighter and knows a little bit about anatomy, a side kick or a front snap kick to that knee is going to buckle that knee. So notice, out of my back stances, my front knee is bent and my back knee is bent. You want back shoulder over the back of that foot. Weight distribution of this is 70-30. 70-30. Another thing you want to focus on is your body posture. A lot of times when I see people do this, they have the tendency of leaning. Head over shoulders, over hips, over feet. Head over shoulders over hips over feet. You'll hear me say that all the time. Head over shoulders over hips over feet. The last thing you want to be doing is leaning this way. Your face is wide open. There's nothing here guarding your face. Front snap kick, you're done. So make sure, head over shoulders over hips over feet. And how do you train this stance? You're doing it. You're just standing there. When your legs start shaking, when you get tired, switch. Buckle. Stand there till you start feeling it again. When your legs start shaking, when you feel like you're starting to lose good posture, switch again. Boom. Switch again. So always make sure you have a solid stance. Now, the benefit of this stance over a front stance. Let's switch over to Bob so you can see the main difference. Front stance. Solid technique. Easily striking distance to Bob. With it being a solid stance, I can throw a punch here and he's not gonna shift me backwards. You're here, solid punch, and he's not moving me. Keep in mind, this Bob is about 150 pounds of sand and water in the bottom, so you push him, he's always pushing back. So even here out of a front stance where he's very bottom heavy, solid stance. But look how close I am to my opponent. I am well within arm range to him. Now, back stance. Back stance, what did I just do? I created distance. So yeah, if I shift my way forward, I can hit him, but I don't want to shift. Back stance is a mobile stance. So if he's moving down on me, I can very easily shift my way backwards, shift my weight off his center line if I need to. You know, so you're here in a back stance, boom, now I'm in a front stance, back on my opponent. Here. My favorite thing to do out of a back stance though is kicking. I am a lead leg kicker. That's what I like to do. So I may be out of his hitting range. He has to come through my arms to hit me, but I can kick when I need to kick with my lead leg. And since my weight is 70% on the back leg, I can very easily chamber off the lead leg. Now, I'm not saying that you cannot throw rear leg kicks with a reverse kick. You 100% can. But I feel that it's more conducive to be throwing lead leg techniques out of a back stance. Then another big stance that I think is, for the most part, highly overlooked. Most black belts will tell you that most of the first forms that we learn are the Nahachi forms, the horse stance forms, the horse forms. And horse stance is probably one of my favorite stances. It's not as good as I'd like it to be, but as a martial artist, if you're ever happy where you're at, well, you're doing something wrong. You should always strive to be better. Horse stance is 1.5 shoulder width wide, bending the knee, hands are wherever you want them to be out of a stance, but both feet are pointed straight ahead. Weight distribution, as you can tell, is 50-50. 50-50. Your knees should be going straight out, if not in a little bit, with your feet pointed straight ahead. The last thing you want is your knees flexing outward. That is a lot of angular stress on those joints. You want your knees out, if not slightly in. Now, there are a bunch of different styles to this. I have seen horse stances with your feet pointing out. I've seen horse stances with your feet pointing in. Here at our school, at Tansido, feet straight ahead. Now, there's not much to training the stance. Once again, stand in it. Stand in it. That's the whole benefit of this, benefit of this type of training is you can do it anywhere. One of my favorite things that I used to love to do is when I was watching a show on TV, I'd stand in a stance. When a commercial hit, I'd skip the commercial, or I'd switch stances during the commercial, wait till the next commercial, then switch stances again. Stance training is something that you can do and it takes no room. all you have to do is stand there. But guys, do not overlook part of this training. And those of us that do have more advanced stances, for instance, what is that? Pagwayong Yochang. We have a front snap kick, jumping reinforced in out. This is a stance. This is a twist stance. I actually am a huge fan of this stance because from here, I can hit all sides with very, very little movement. Twist stance is a great stance to practice. Another overlooked stance that we have is the catch stance. Weight distribution 90-10. Notice how I'm only on the balls of my feet is here. So practice these stances. I ran over a little bit, so we're not gonna have time to close with the question of the night. But guys, other than that, practice your stances. That, like I said, on the test was probably one of my biggest problems that I had where stances were not consistent. And I understand that some of us are practicing in a living room or in a cramped hall space or well, I'm out of places. But practice your stances. Stances are that big. Even if I'm in a, 3-foot hallway, I'm not able to go 1.5. Notice that with me shifting my stance, nothing really changed. My weight distribution is still 60-40. My front knee is still over top of my heel. My back knee is still locked. I'm still in a solid stance. Okay, other than that, guys, I hope we had a good class. Please like if you liked, subscribe if you haven't. Other than that, I'll see everybody Tuesday. Y'all have a good evening.